I don't know if the microphone is going to be able to pick up on it, but there is currently a small hurricane going on in the background, and it's not going away anytime soon, so I just have to record this now. So if you hear any noise in the background, that's what it is, but anyways. Kyrie gone, Al Horford gone, Marcus Morris gone. The Celtics fucked. Or at least some people seem to feel that way. Actually, the Celtics are in a good position, at least in the short term, in my opinion. But people seem to have looked at the Celtics losing 3 key players while gaining Kemba, and they decided that the Celtics would have a down year. I could not disagree more. While yes, the Celtics no doubt suffered a loss going from Al Horford to Enes Kanter, and Marcus Morris was a loss as well, I think there's going to be a positive change of direction with this team, and a culture shift with Kyrie Irving no longer being there. While I don't necessarily think that this team will be a whole lot better in the win column than they were last year, I do feel this team will still be better overall and will be more of a threat in the Eastern Conference. More of a threat than they were last year, and more of a threat than they are currently being given credit for. Let's talk about why. Before we get into this video, I do have a small announcement. I will be posting a My GM series for 2K20 on this channel, and the first episode will be out tomorrow. It is a series on the Minnesota Timberwolves. I'm guessing most of you have never seen a My GM series by myself, mostly because there are only 9 episodes of it up on this channel, and they're from a while ago. But if you are familiar with A Funky Diabetic, I do My GMs very similar to him. He's actually the reason I started this channel in the first place, to make My GMs in his style. I slowly and methodically build up teams, sometimes put a bit of a narrative on it, I do realistic trades. I basically approach it like I would if I was a real general manager. So if the series interests you, give it a watch, but more importantly, if the series does not interest you, and it isn't something you care to see, I promise you that this series will not affect the upload rate of my regular videos. At the moment, I'm uploading every 2 to 3 days, and I intend to keep doing that. So if you don't care for 2K videos, just ignore them. So yeah, anyways, the Boston Celtics. Before we dive too deep into the narrative surrounding this team, let's first actually look at this team. The starting lineup for this team, from what I have seen, is not at all set, so for all of those people who love to say, no, this isn't actually the starting lineup, please shut up. From what I have researched, there is no specific starting lineup that has been released yet. There is also no starting caliber power forward, so if I was the Boston Celtics, not saying they necessarily do this, I think they go small with Jason Tatum playing the 4. In that lineup, Kemba would be at point, Smart at 2, Brown at 3, Tatum at 4, and Enes Kanter at 5. If, and this is a big if, Gordon Hayward is back at starting caliber levels, you can just bring Brown up to the 2 guard and sub out Marcus Smart for Hayward. But if you kept that starting lineup that I suggested, that would give you 2 lockdown defenders in Smart and Brown, which can help make up for the defensive loss of Al Horford. If you put Hayward into that starting lineup instead of Marcus Smart, you might see a bit of a defensive drop-off that is not worth that extra offense. Anyways, as for the bench, that is what could be the biggest issue for this team. This bench is full of a lot of prospects. Carson Edwards projects to be this team's backup point guard, the Celtics lottery pick Romeo Langford, Gordon Hayward, Grant Williams or Daniel Tice, and Robert Williams or Daniel Tice. The average age of this bench is 22 years old. Remove Gordon Hayward, who is the obvious outlier, and you get an average age of 20. Lots of inexperience, and inexperience breeds inconsistency, which is far from ideal. I specifically expect a lot of this inconsistency from the Celtics' backup guards. Edwards and Langford, from what I have seen, both seem to be pure scorers, but not necessarily in a good way. When I say pure scorer, I'm more thinking like Indiana Pacers Monte Ellis, not Kobe or Tracy McGrady. Another less known comparison would be Antonio Blakeney, or a comparison that Celtics fans would sympathize with, Terry Rozier. These dudes have a tendency to fool people into thinking that they are really good by scoring in a flashy but very inefficient way. I can tell you from personal experience that many Bulls fans believed Antonio Blakeney was going to be a steal as an undrafted free agent, but I saw a poor man's Monte Ellis all over him, and now most Bulls fans have come around to that. Point is, I think this year, Edwards and Langford have potential to be those types of players. By no means do I think that that is their trajectory in the long term, but as rookies, as shot-happy players in a limited opportunity environment, I think there could be some struggles there. Again, don't think this is a long-term thing. I like Edwards and I think Langford has a lot of potential as a scorer, but for the season, I think those being the Celtics' backup guards is less than ideal. Grant, I admit to not knowing much about, but from what I've heard and seen, he seems like a solid player who is also a good teammate, and Robert Williams is a solid run, jump, and dunk center who plays really good defense. I'm hoping he actually becomes a big part of the rotation now that Aaron Baines is gone. But let's get back to the starters. Kemba Walker is Kemba Walker. I'm betting that when Kemba plays the way he always has, but instead in Boston rather than Charlotte, a whole lot of people will be raving about him like they have never before. Probably talking him up like he was way better than he used to be, when in reality, he's the same but just in a bigger spotlight. I'm not as confident that Jaylen Brown gets traded as I was before. In my video on the matter, many comments said that the Celtics could pull off some cap magic or simply trade Gordon Hayward with a bunch of first-round picks, or they'd just be simply okay to accept the salary consequences. And because of that, I do think there is a good chance that the Celtics are okay with overpaying Jaylen Brown. So now I would call it 50-50 on him being traded. But I think Boston should use him more offensively. Try to feature him more in the offense rather than have him as an afterthought. I think he could get to like 17 points a game with some more plays ran through him. And if his defense makes a jump, which I think it can, he will be worth $25 million a year. Marcus Smart, I hope, makes another jump as a shooter. He shot well from three for the first time in his career last season, shooting 36% on 4 attempts. If he could become a good shooter rather than just an okay one, that would be really helpful because it would mean that 4 out of the Celtics starting 5 would be good shooters. Now the next guy we have to talk about is Jason Tatum, and this will be the rant section of the video. I am pretty neutral on Jason Tatum. I am neither a Tatum hater nor am I a Tatum superfan. But if I had to choose one of those two groups that I really cannot stand, it is the Jason Tatum haters. Jason Tatum is one of the brightest young stars in the NBA. If you cannot see that, you are blind. When I made my video on Kyle Kuzma being overrated, at least 40% of the comments were saying that Tatum is actually the most overrated young player in the league. Here's the thing. 1, if 40% of my comment section is saying that Jason Tatum is overrated, he isn't fucking overrated. 2, did people overreact to Tatum's initial success? Yes. Did people go a little too far saying he is the next Carmelo Anthony or Kobe Bryant? Yeah. But overall, Tatum is not overrated. I really hate to be the guy that uses this phrase, but Jason Tatum is only 20 years old. He averaged 16 points a game on good shooting splits last year. He still has plenty of time to become a star or superstar, and he has shown plenty of skills that are incredibly impressive for a 19 and 20-year-old player. His footwork and overall offensive skill set are that of a seasoned veteran, not someone who is my fucking age. I think it is quite ridiculous the way that people talk about Jason Tatum. As of right now, Tatum is a really good young scorer with a lot of room to grow. And as for what I think Tatum does this season, I think this will be the first of many years where he gets to 20 points per game. Tatum averaged 16 a game last year. I expect more minutes and opportunity to get him to 20 a game this year. Marcus Morris, who shot 11 times a game last year, is now gone. I expect a couple of those to go to Brown, but also many of those shots to go to Jason Tatum. I just think there will be more of an opportunity, assuming that Gordon Hayward doesn't break out to his old self, which would throw a wrench into all of this. For better or for worse, I don't know if back in his prime Gordon Hayward getting more shots than Jason Tatum is necessarily good for this team, but who's to say? But as for how this team is going to work, even though you lost a good leader in Al Horford, you also lost a bad leader and, at least in this locker room, a toxic presence in Kyrie Irving. You also gain a good leader in Kemba Walker, a player that I think is frankly way better with a young team, way more patient and willing to accept his teammates making some mistakes, and I think that simple shift is why this Boston Celtics team will win 50 games. Last year, the Celtics won 49 games. I don't expect more than like 53 from this team, because while I do think there will be a positive culture shift, it doesn't make up for all of the talent this team lost. So there will be some struggles with depth and talent, but overall I expect this team to be a lot better, and I expect them to be much more of a playoff threat than they ended up being last season. That is the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.